My name's Chris Clark, and I am a doctoral candidate at the University of Minnesota. And I wrote an article called Examining the Relationship Between Civic Education and Partisan Alignment in Young Voters. And what got me interested in the topic is that I am very intrigued by whether social studies actually translates into real-world political behavior. And so what I wanted to do was examine whether the pedagogies and climates, school climates that students are exposed to actually affect the way that they express their ideology or their partisanship. And so doing that, I drew on a lot of studies about polarization and political alignment in adults, and I wanted to see if civic education had anything to do with that. Studies on polarization generally talk about political knowledge or strength of partisanship or other factors as influencing how polarized a person is. I wanted to see where civic education fit in that picture. So in order to do that, I used a logistic regression model drawing on data from the Circle Foundation, particularly Peter Levine's work, gathering data after the 2012 election. What I did in the study is I used the alignment between the person's stated issue positions, party identification, and ideological identification, as well as their vote choice, to create a measure of how aligned an individual was. And so people who expressed strong party identification along with voting for a particular candidate and ideological positions and issue positions that were consistent with a party affiliation were classified as partisan aligned. And then I also created a more extreme version of that for people who said that they were on the extreme end of the ideological scales. And then I compared those people to people who did not display such alignment. And I wanted to see how civic education affected the likelihood of an individual falling into that category. So I used a logistic regression analysis, which basically is what are the odds that you fall into this category versus another category. And I discovered that in general, civic education and school climate and a number of other predictors don't necessarily influence most people, but for the very extreme group of partisans, a high-quality civic education and a very open school climate do tend to reduce the odds of falling into that extreme partisan group. Now, the implication of that is somewhat a little hazy at this point because we don't necessarily have information that these individuals in the extreme group are behaving in a normatively problematic fashion. Like, are they arguing with people more often? Do they hate other political groups as much as we like to see in the media? What I found is if you have both good school climate and good pedagogy, you were less likely to align at the extreme end of the scale. This hints at the impact civic education has not just on cognitive abilities, but on the way people are engaging in the modern political polarized world. More research is needed to flesh out how exactly good civic education impacts people, but this data is a start. Ultimately, with more evidence, I hope to be able to see how fully one's political socialization in a school setting translates to political behavior with respect to partisanship and political discourse and a number of other problematic things we've seen in the political sphere.